Major support for Out to Lunch is provided by the law firm of Jones Walker. Established in 1937 with over 375 attorneys in offices throughout the U.S., providing a comprehensive range of services to a local, national, and international client base. JonesWalker.com. And by Business First Bank, with locations throughout the state, including 11 offices in the Baton Rouge area, providing personal and commercial banking, treasury management, and wealth solution services to help clients succeed. Business First Bank, banking with greater momentum.
From Mansurs on the Boulevard in Baton Rouge, we're out to lunch with editor of the Baton Rouge Business Report, Stephanie Regal. It's business Baton Rouge style.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Regal. Welcome to Out to Lunch. Romance is the spice of life, as they say. It's also a key to the success of certain businesses that are built quite literally on hearts and flowers. Buzzy Heroman is a fourth-generation florist in Baton Rouge and the owner of Billy Heroman's Flowers, which has 3 stores in the area. The store was founded by his parents, Billy and Janet Heroman, in the 1950s, though the Heroman family has been in the floral business since the 1870s. Today, Buzzy and his wife, Susie, run their business, which is the largest florist in Louisiana. They now have the 5th generation of the family also working with them, their sons, Ben and Robert Heroman, and their nephew, Todd McBride. Buzzy, your name is ubiquitous in Baton Rouge. We look forward to hearing your story. Welcome to Out to Lunch.
Thank you.
Season Vining is a romance writer who has published 3 steamy novels with a 4th on the way. Season's stories are page-turners with heroes and heroines who have dark pasts and hidden secrets, but deep down, good hearts. She began writing poetry while she was still just a child growing up in Baton Rouge. Over the years, as she matured, so did her writing. And today, in addition to being an author, she is a designer and the mother of a young toddler. Season, your story is really cool. We look forward to hearing more about it. Welcome to Out to Lunch.
Thank you.
All right, well, Buzzy, I want to start with you because I made a reference at the beginning to the hearts and flowers and romance. Do people still send flowers like they did back in the 50s when your parents opened Billy Heroman's?
Absolutely. Growing up, I remember my dad still says it at age 94. He says, we know things that, before the recipients do, because we handle not just, but all special occasions as well as just because occasions,
Sure.
I mean, weddings, anniversaries, birthdays, get wells, just countless new babies all the time.
Now, the Heroman name is so well known in Baton Rouge, and your store is the biggest. Y'all have 3 locations, but there are other family members that also have other Heromans. Does it get confusing? I know, I've always wanted to know, do y'all all get along, or was there a big schism somewhere back in the middle years of the 20th century?
No, actually, as a family, the Heromans are the oldest retailers in Baton Rouge. And
wow.
The Chamber of Commerce, probably 25 or 30 years ago, decided to start a Century Club if your business was 100 years old or more.
Okay.
And it was the Heromans, the Ballingers with Kornmeyer's, Klein Peter Farms, the Advocate, the Manship family.
Wow.
There was only about 6 of us in there. And they did the research and determined that my great-grandfather on the corner of Main and 4th, catty corner from St. Joseph Cathedral. Mm-hmm. He actually was the first retail place in Baton Rouge.
Your great-grandfather
Yes.
who started it.
Yes.
Well, I want to talk to you about the flower business, but I want to bring Season into the conversation because romance is central to what you do. I know flowers figure prominently in a lot of your novels when your heroes send them to your heroines. How does one become a romance writer?
Oh, that's interesting. Because I really didn't read a lot of romance before I started writing it. I like to read horror. I like Dean Koontz, Dan Brown, and Stephen King, things like that. And a friend got me into reading romance, and I was like, this is good, but, I was looking for a certain kind of story, and I couldn't find it because a lot of them kind of geared toward my grandmother's romance.
They're older, right? The Harlequin set
exactly,
kind of thing.
The bodice-ripping romances. And, younger kids are not into that. And so I was like, well, I'm going to try to write my own because I couldn't find what I was looking for. So I did, and I just kind of fell into it after that. I joined a local writing group here in Baton Rouge, and there are some really talented people there, and they help critique your stories, and it just kind of snowballed from there.
Now, when you say snowballed, do you have a publisher or do you self-publish them?
All of mine are traditionally published. So my first 3, I got a 3-book deal with St. Martin's Griffin, who is owned by Macmillan.
God, that's great.
And I got my book deal through attending a tiny little writers conference in Houma, Louisiana called Jambalaya Writers Conference.
In Houma?
In Houma.
That's a great
They
story.
flew in editors from New York and agents from New York, and you got to pitch. And I talked to the right person with the right story, and that's what happened.
What are younger readers looking for? What are you able to give them?
Well, what's funny is when I got my book deal, my editor at St. Martin's told me, she's like, "This is great. This is a new genre called new adult," and I was like, "Oh, I didn't even know."
New adult.
Like I'd never heard of it. I didn't know that I was writing a new adult book, but okay. And so she told me, like, this is great. This is what's trending right now, and I had no idea. And so basically, what it is, new adult is a general term for people who are about college age, so like 18 to mid-20s, and a lot of romance. It kind of new adult started with romance, but it has branched out now, and there's lots of paranormal and all kind of things like that. And so they're looking for people who are struggling with everything you struggle with when you're in your 20s, like
Sure.
self-discovery and growing up and leaving home and things like that, and all of that on top of romance and adventure and things like that.
How steamy do the books get?
Pretty steamy. I mean, they're not erotica.
They're not erotica.
They're
okay.
not 50 Shades of anything, but they are steamy. They're romance, and so people expect that. And of course, there are different levels of romance. There are people who fade to black for their romantic scenes, and there are people who are more descriptive. And so there's so many different variations in romance.
Yeah. And then how do you sell the books? Do you have to worry about that, or the publisher takes care of that for you?
No, the publisher takes care of all of that. My 4th book, the one that's coming out next, is with a different publisher. They're more of an indie publisher. And so the experience has been completely different than when I was with St. Martin's, because they're one of the big 6. They're a huge conglomerate. So the experience has been different, but still they do the marketing, they do the selling.
And then they line you up with book tours and speaking and
They do not
interviews?
do that anymore.
They don't?
That is not something that they do unless you are Stephen King or someone like that that makes them a ton of money.
Gotcha.
You get an advance, and so you are meant to spend that advance to support yourself while you're writing, supposedly, or to use that on marketing or to schedule your book signings and buy marketing materials and promotional items, things like that.
So interesting. Well, speaking of selling, Buzzy, tell me about the model, for your business and floral sales today. How are they doing, and where does your product come from? You mentioned your greenhouse. Do you all grow most of what you sell, or a part of it, or how does it work?
We do on the plant side of
On the
our
plant
business.
side.
And of course we do blooming and green plants as well, from a little small thing on a table up to 30-foot, 40-foot palms that we put in different malls around the state that we service. We have an interior scape side also in our plant division. And so we built the first set of greenhouses we actually built back in the early 80s.
Really?
When the plant boom and hippies and all were real big. And all of a sudden, the people who used to grow quality for us, they deliver the plants and they'd slide a flat of plants out, and half of them would fall out of the soil because they weren't even rooted yet.
Wow.
And we are quality, top of the chain service, period, into the question, whatever we can find latest and greatest, And by having our own greenhouses, we actually buy things from out of laboratories that have been crisscrossed, gene pool, etc., so
Nice.
they'll last longer and be better, and all the type things that why they would do it. And we do the same with flowers. I mean, we chase flowers literally all over the world. If you walked in our cooler today or almost any time of year, there'd be 12 to 16 countries in the front cooler.
How often do they come in? Like, you'll get shipments of exotic, beautiful...
3 times a week.
Really?
Yeah, and then every now and then we got a hot shot FedEx something here or there, because somebody need something maybe more, something. All of a sudden somebody wants this lavish Hawaiian luau or something. We keep tropicals, but maybe not enough to do that.
Something big like that.
Tomorrow, the next day. And so, we do use FedEx some.
Now, what is
But
your...
mostly it's all come through refrigerated chains in the chain of life, flower chain of life.
What is your role in the company? Are you mostly administrative, or do you actually work with the flowers hands-on, or a little bit of everything?
I do some of everything. Obviously, as we've grown, I'm not in the workroom quite as much. I'm through there all the time. I'm always checking. On the holidays, I actually run the production center, and design with them. And I do on any given day, based on need.
Yeah.
But as we've grown, we've made Coles was our 5th acquisition now in 5 years. That just took place a few weeks ago.
Right, that was a big deal.
Interior-scaping has given us some great growth and synergy to the flowers side. Mm-hmm. And we're working in about 22 or 23 parishes in the state now. We have
fantastic. That's
so it's
huge.
been great.
Yeah.
It's been great. Business is there. You just got to work hard.
Yeah. Speaking of roles, Susan, you say on your blog that your material comes from studying other couples. How do you study them? I mean, when you're out with them, or when you're just like in a room like this watching people interact?
Oh, I'm a big people watcher. I love, I don't like to go shopping at the mall, but I like to go there and watch people. And that sounds a little creepy, I know, but not in that way. I like to watch people. I like to watch how they interact. I get a lot of dialogue in my books from things that I overhear from other people. I always have my phone out, and that's my, taking notes. I'm always taking notes. If someone says something that's hilarious, I'm not always going to kind of rip them off and use exactly what they say, but it may inspire something else that I use later. And especially because I am older than the people that I write about. I'm not 20-something anymore, and so I hang out in coffee shops sometimes when I'm writing, and that there's tons of material there.
Do you find it hard to put yourself in the mind of a man? I used to be an aspiring fiction writer when I was young, but I always found it hard to write like a man or a boy. I could know how a woman thinks, or I think at least.
Yeah, I found it easier, actually. It's funny because my first book is told in third person, so I'm kind of in everyone's head. And then my second book is alternating points of view.
I was reading that one the other day.
Hers is one chapter, and then he's second chapter. And so I actually found him easier to write, and I don't know why. I guess because he was kind of mysterious and he was kind of a damaged person. Yeah. I'm not sure why I connected with him, but most of the time romance is told from a woman's point of view anyway, in first person. And so that's easier to identify with, of course, with like all the things that you go through when you're young and in love, or you think you're in love. And so those things were easier as far as writing a woman, but for the man, I don't know, I just connected with him easily and wrote him easily. And in my book that's coming out next, it's all told from the girl's point of view, but at the end of every chapter there is a poem written by the male point of view. And so I wrote 28 poems, and because that's how many chapters I have.
Wow.
And I hadn't written poetry in quite a while, like since I was a teenager. And so getting back into that aspect of writing was so much fun, and also terrifying, because that's a completely different beast than writing fiction.
Sure.
You know, but it was fun.
You're listening to Out to Lunch. I'm Stephanie Riegel. We're talking to author Susan Vining and Buzzy Heroman of Billy Heroman's Flowers. So speaking of poems, Buzzy, that reminds me of the beautiful floral arrangements that you all sell, that you would send for the occasions that you mentioned. Is it like a set template that you all created, or is it something like, and people can order them over the internet, right?
Yes. We made quite an investment a little over 7 years ago in an internet site that we felt put us on a plane with anybody in the country, including the FTDs.
Like if I typed in
whatnot.
FTD and wanted to send flowers
if
across the country.
If you compared their site to our site, the visual and the presentation and the ease is just, is equal. And when we did that, we also built our own photo booth in the back production room.
So you will
and we had it spec'd out by a photographer. Yes. And so, unfortunately, I would tell you, as an industry in horticulture, The internet has not been kind. Not, competition's fine from every angle, but a lot of the pictures are not, a lot of them
They're
are
not
not even made.
representative of
They're
what
not
you
even
get,
made.
right?
If you look at them, they're stems in the vase that are the same in every vase because they Photoshop and then they create the Photoshop arrangement.
I've experienced that firsthand.
Yes.
My fiance has ordered flowers for me, and I'm like super excited. Yeah. I don't know the difference, but when I bring them home, he's like, "That is not what I ordered."
Yeah. That's such a shame.
There's a lot of in the industry we call them order gatherers, and not being ugly or anything. It's just a different business model than I would ever have.
Sure.
And all they want to do is capture the order. Like when your fiance went online and he decided, because a lot of them put these huge sale banners and all of this, and most of it is not really fair advertising.
That's such a shame.
And so it's created some disappointment in consumers, and that's what I dislike most about it. I'd like everybody to enjoy flowers. We try so hard. I still buy all of our flowers myself. I have an assistant, but through what I call doctor buddies at Society of American Florists that do a lot of care and handling and studying things, they clue me into the best farms for certain varieties. And horticulture, 4 or 5 years ago when there was all the talk about the gene pool and exciting and what they can do, well, horticulture's been in the gene pool for 30 years now. And so I only buy, like yellow roses, for example, I buy something called high and exotic, and I'll only buy them from 3 farms in Ecuador.
Wow.
Because they're the best there are. It's the latest variety. It's going to last the longest. It's the largest head. It opens beautifully. It'll last 10 days, 2 weeks in your home.
Did you learn flowers just coming up in the business, or you have a degree in horticulture as well?
I took business at LSU, and I took there 3 or 4 or 5 horticulture courses.
Okay.
As
So a little bit of
electives,
both.
it wouldn't count towards business.
And
at
the rest
time,
was growing up
but
in
I
the
did
family
both.
business?
Yes.
Now, what about how has the internet affected your business season? I mean, I was able to read your blog online. I was able to read all about you online. I was even able to read some of your books online.
Right.
So it seems like it would be very critical, but does that help sales?
Yes.
Or does it cut into them?
I mean, to be traditionally published these days, you have to start with an agent. So you have to get an agent, and your agent then pitches your books to publishing houses. Most publishing houses, especially the big ones, do not take unsolicited manuscripts anymore. Sure, you could send them in, but they probably will never be seen. So it takes that agent knowing different editors in the field and knowing what editors are looking for. Some are looking for historical romance, some are looking for other things. So your agent does that for you. And the first thing that my agent told me when I got her was, you need to have a social media platform and you need to start working on that now. I'm like, but I don't have a book. I'm just nobody. And she said, it doesn't matter. Like, just start doing anything. She's like, if it's just friends and family, you just need a platform. You need to be on Twitter. You need to be on Facebook. You need a website. So that was the first thing I did, is went and bought seasonbinding.com, and
great.
And it's grown and grown, and I've changed it a million times. And because I luckily am a graphic designer, I am able to do that myself. A lot of authors have to hire people to do that and hire people to create their promotional items, and I get to create all that myself. So that's lucky. But yes, being on the internet, being on social media is very important. Unfortunately, the internet also can hurt you because you can find my books for free somewhere.
Right.
There are people who put pirated books up everywhere. When they're available in ebook, people will pirate them. And
But could I go into a Barnes & Noble and get it actually on the shelf?
Yes.
Or would all the sales be online?
No. My first 3 are in anywhere you can buy books.
Yeah.
So independent booksellers, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million here have them. And then, of course, they're anywhere on Amazon. So anywhere, yeah.
No, that's lucky. Buzzy, what about you? Like, what percentage do you think of your sales come from the internet today as compared to?
It's obviously it grows every day, every month, larger and larger. As a total company, we're not the norm in the flower industry because we're so diversified. We keep so many different gifts besides the plants and then the interior scaping. So if you look at it as a total company is not as large. In the floral division, the internet might be up to maybe 25% now.
Really? But
And-
most
and
of the
continues to
sales
grow.
are from local people, even if they order it via
Well,
their desktop? Or?
Not the I would say the majority are, but quite a few are from all over the country.
And they just
know.
find your website? They
Yeah,
may
they
not
find
even
our
know your
sites.
name.
We're up high on the list. We do buy some clicks on the list like everybody, but through a good reputation and good reviews and things, you continue to climb, and it's been a great tool. Like I said, since we built the photo booth, and it's more an actual. This is what you see is what you get,
Yeah.
and it's real rather than kind of.
So then
make-believe.
if you got an order from out of state to send flowers somewhere else out of state, do you all actually make the bouquet here in Baton Rouge and send it, or do you
We-
partner with a company in that
We
receiving
partner with another FTD shop.
and they'll do it for you?
And we have a list of all the shops in every town, but I've been at it for almost 48 years myself, I hate to admit. And through all that time, we've made so many good friends through conventions and committee meetings and sitting on boards and whatnot. And we star the people that we know.
So you
do
know they'll
quality
do it
like we
good.
do.
They're not going to
Yes.
do it like the bum
Yes.
bouquet that
Yes. And that's where we
arrangement that
send
Susan
They're
got.
starred in the computer, so even if somebody who is now trained and begins on the phone, they know they go to the stars that we have. Don't just pick somebody at random.
And that's important in any
Very
business.
important.
And like networking and learning to find other people in your business that you trust, that you know will do your quality work and that can represent you. That's important.
And networking, I would imagine, in your line of work, Season, is important. I mean,
Yes.
because you refer to other authors like yourself and vice versa, and you all ping each other and tag each other and link to
absolutely.
each other.
Cross promotion.
Yeah.
It's important.
Let's talk about family for a minute. Is your family supportive of what you do?
Absolutely. Absolutely. My mom is who got me into reading when I was a kid. She still reads like crazy, probably 4 books at a time.
That's
And
great.
she's been doing that, she said, ever since she got pregnant when she was 18. She has kept a log since she was 18 of every book that she has read.
Oh, that's
and
fantastic.
I think it's up to around 3,500 books at this
I'm
point.
sure.
And so she got me into reading, and that's eventually what got me into writing, and my dad is super proud. When I had my first book signing at Barnes & Noble here in Baton Rouge, they had like these big signs up in the store, and, a lot of people showed up, and because, I'm from here, I signed about 90-something books, and then they ran out, and so whoever didn't have a book was just out of luck that day. But it was a huge event, and it's really successful, and we were so excited. But when I left, my dad took the sign from Barnes & Noble and made me sign it, and it's hanging in his office at his house.
That's
So,
great. Good for him.
But then on the other hand, about a month later, he told me, I read your book, and I was like,
Uh-oh.
what? Why did you do that?
Whoops.
And he was like, no, it was good. And I was like, okay, and can we never talk about this again? Thank you. And don't read any more of them.
Are you able to support yourself as an author, or is it a side
I
gig?
was for a while. So I used to be a graphic designer at Lamar, and that's when I got my book deal. And with my first book deal, it came out of nowhere. I sold this one book that I had written to this editor, and my editor is actually the one who got me my agent. And so the agent negotiated with her for 2 weeks, and then out of nowhere, she was like, they want a 3-book deal. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then they want to publish very quickly. They want to publish a book every 6 months or so. So that means I had to write a book in 3 months, which I worked on that first manuscript for like 2 years because I wasn't in a big rush, and it was just kind of a
Sure.
side thing. So that kind of freaked me out. But because I had an agent and she had like crazy negotiating skills, I got a 3-book deal with a 6-figure advance. And so that was kind of unheard of for people, for an like first-time author, first-time published. And so that advance allowed me to quit my job and write, because there was no way I could have pumped out a book in 3 months if I was
you'd been working, sure.
full-time job. But since then, I've decided like I didn't need all this off time and downtime, and I got really like even though I'm kind of an introvert, I really like seeing people every day, especially other adults. When it was just me and the dog at the house, you start having conversations with the animals and they don't talk back and you get kind of lonely. So yeah, I like having a day job again, and it's fun.
Well, good. What about family with you, Buzzy? Your family is integral to your business now. You're working with your sons and your nephew.
Yes, we're so blessed.
And your wife. There's a lot of togetherness time, though.
Yes. My wife is now cut back
not
to 2
drive
days
each
a week,
other
she says.
crazy?
Well, my wife has been sharing an office with me now. She raised the kids growing up and only worked on holidays.
Okay.
And she's over the last year, she went to 4 days and 3 days. Now the other day, I said, I didn't see you. She said, I went to 2 days, you didn't know? I said, no, you didn't tell me. But she still, she'll come 3 or 4 hours here and 3 or 4 hours there. Susie still
It's perfect. She's
is
got a good boss,
responsible.
huh?
Yeah, pretty good, I'd say. She's responsible for probably 18 or 20 of the lines up front.
Okay.
Vera Bradley, candles, body and bath, all of those type of things. And so she comes regularly still in order to get, they'll take inventories and she places orders and reorders so we don't ever run out of anything.
Well, Buzzy Heroman and Season Vining, thank you all so much for sharing your stories today and for doing your part to add a little romance to the world. My guests today on Out to Lunch have been romance novelist Season Vining and Buzzy Heroman of Billy Heroman's Flowers. You can find out more about Season Vining and Billy Heroman's by following the links on our website, itsbatonrouge.la and wrkf.org. Today's show was recorded live over lunch at Mansurs on the Boulevard in Baton Rouge. Mansurs is open for lunch daily from 11 to 2, for dinner nightly, and for brunch on Saturdays and Sundays. The producer of our show is Grant Morris. Our technical producer is Eric Merle. Our associate producer is Peter Raschuti. And our Baton Rouge business consultants are Charlie D'Agostino and Ann Edelman. You can see photos from this show on itsbatonrouge.la and on our Facebook page. These photos are taken by Ken Stewart. All the music on Out to Lunch is composed and performed by Mitchell Foreman. You can find more of Mitchell's music wherever great jazz is streamed or sold and at mitchellforeman.com. You can get the show as a podcast, you can listen to past shows, and you can keep up with us on all kinds of social media by going to our website, itsbatonrouge.la and wrkf.org. Out to Lunch is a production of INO Broadcasting for itsbatonrouge.la and WRKF 89.3 FM. I'm Stephanie Riegel. Thanks for joining me. I look forward to meeting you again next week around the table here at Mansurs for more business Baton Rouge style on Out to Lunch.
Major support for Out to Lunch is provided by the law firm of Jones Walker. Established in 1937 with over 375 attorneys in offices throughout the U.S., providing a comprehensive range of services to a local, national, and international client base. JonesWalker.com, and by Business First Bank, with locations throughout the state, including 11 offices in the Baton Rouge area, providing personal and commercial banking, treasury management, and wealth solution services to help clients succeed. Business First Bank, banking with greater momentum.